Hello, miners. Move my camera here. It's weird. And hello, Afghanistan 40. Move this over. Oh, sorry. I'll get this camera set up right. That's better. Okay, everybody. So, yeah, a couple over here. We will. We are talking today about Litecoin mining. This is the intermediate level that we're going to talk about today. You should have already seen number Askanison. Sorry. You should have already seen the part 1 and part 2 of the tutorial and maybe the overview. Today what we're going to be doing is actually covering more intermediate stuff. So basically how to set up GUIMiner and how to do your scripts, how to get your batch files set up, all that. That's what we're going to talk about today. Have had a lot of people sending me a ton of questions. So let's see. Do I have this set up right? No, I don't. Hold on. Sorry about that. And I'm going to have my camera. Here we go. So, if you have not seen part 1 and part 2, click here and here for part 2. Part 1's over here, part 2's over here, and down here will be the overview 1. You're talking, what are you talking about? I'm watching you live and this makes no sense. Of course, because that's where I'm going to put the annotations later on. All right. So, yes, now what we're going to talk about today is our intermediate stuff. First off, let's get some of the questions out of the way. We are going to be talking about this via Windows, not Linux, not Mac OS. I'm sorry. Both of those are both viable. You can mine on both of them, but the tools that we're talking about might not necessarily work on Windows, specifically the CG Watcher, which I'm running in the corner. And if you notice, I'm running GUIMiner and XSplit at the same time. Woot! Big woot. That was really, really difficult to get that going last time. Matter of fact, that's how we have part 1 and part 2 because it crashed when I tried starting it. So I'm not actually going to touch it. You're just going to see it running in the background. All right. So you should have already seen part 1 and part 2 of the tutorials. If you have not seen them, stop this now, go back, and come back to this one when you have some questions. We're going to be talking about Windows-based mining today, not Linux or OS X, but the settings that we are going to talk about will work in both Linux and OS X as far as setting up GUIMiner or whatever variation that they have of those programs. Linux is apparently a little bit better at mining. It does kind of get you a few more hashes per second, but I use this computer as my main computer to work on, and of course do my XSplit and all my shows and everything like that come from this computer. So I'm not going to install Linux on this because it'd just be too difficult to do all the other work that I do. All right, so now that we have that out of the way, let's go ahead and get started with what we're going to talk about today. So you've already got your GUIMiner set up and running. You're using GUIMiner, or you've decided I don't need GUIMiner anymore, and you're going to go ahead and just use the batch files that are in the GUIMiner folder. If you don't know where those are, you basically go to GUIMiner, wherever you put that. Then you go into GUIMiner, and inside GUIMiner, you're going to have a batch file called default.bat, unless you changed it to some other name. Okay? So, what we're going to do now, let me open up my folder. This is my GUIMiner folder. It's on my desktop. I'm using GUIMiner 3.72. If you're using GUIMiner, I think you're using 3.11. It's not that important right now. Don't worry about that if you're not using the exact same GUIMiner that I am. It's okay. And inside this folder, so what this would be is if you were using GUIMiner, this would be a subfolder of GUIMiner. It's called GUIMiner inside GUIMiner. Once you're comfortable with GUIMiner and you've got the thing set up, then you probably want to go ahead and use just straight up GUIMiner. And the reason for that is it actually has a lot better features and you can see things that are going on, and it runs a little faster. So why not use the actual source program that GUIMiner is using? Okay, so inside this folder, if you've already got it running and it's working, we're going to pretend that that's happening right now. Okay, we'll talk about some things to fix later on at the end of this show, but for right now we're talking about is it working or is it not? And inside there, you have one called mine-default, okay? Because that's where GUIMiner makes the first one. I'm not going to run these because I've already got it running and I don't want to crash XSplit. We don't want to have that happen again. So in here, all you're going to do is you right-click and you go to Edit. Okay. So I copied this over from my GUIMiner folder, and then this is what it looks like inside there. Okay. And right now, if you're sort of in the intermediate level and you don't know what I'm talking about, a lot of this is going to look really, really scary to you. But we're going to go over what each one of these things are inside this batch file and what they mean and what you can change safely and what's going to cause your computer to burst into flames and melt into a pile of goo. Nah, not really. All right. So the first thing in this script is you want to open it in Notepad, and you can use word wrap, however big or small you want to make it. Doesn't really matter. I'll make it to where some of these switches are on the same line. Okay. So the first thing you're going to notice in here is this is calling to where GUIMiner is. Now you don't necessarily need that because you're going to be running GUIMiner in its own directory. All right. So what we're going to do then here is we're just going to get rid of the URL, the URL to where the folder is, and we're just going to tell it we're going to run GUIMiner exe. The next thing you're going to need is something called the flag for what type of mining we're going to be doing, and we're going to be doing script mining because Litecoin is a script mine coin. It's not done with the Bitcoin type of mining. So you want to make sure that that is in your GUIMiner. The next one is -u. Now -u is the username that you're using to log into the website. Now this is not the login to the website. This is when you go to WeMine LTC, you'll see that you have workers. This is the name of the worker. This is not my login to the website. Okay? So I call it the Dharma 1 because that's what the worker's name is, and the password is the -p, and you just put a space, and then the password for this one is X. Why am I telling you this? Because by all means, start mining for me. I don't care. What type of mining are we using here? Okay, and we're going to be using Stratum. So if you use GUIMiner, this might have already been set up for you, this first line here. Okay, it should say GUIMiner exe, and it will be in the URL for where that is on the hard drive, and I just got rid of that because I'm doing this inside of the actual GUIMiner folder, so I don't need to tell it where it is. It already knows it's inside this folder. What type of hashing are we going to be doing? We're doing script. There's my user, and this is the password, and we have to tell it that we're using Stratum, okay, because that Stratum is how the hashes are sent to your computer. We're not going to go into a lot of detail in this. This is sort of intermediate. We'll go into a more advanced one later on, but this is just, we're staying with an intermediate level here. Okay. Now, we need to tell it where it's going to. And actually, the Stratum is actually part of this line. Sorry. This is the URL for where we're going to. So it's Stratum plus TCP, Stratum to WeMineLTC.com, 3355 is the port. Okay? If you're using multiple GPUs, we will talk about multiple GPUs in a couple of minutes, but for right now, we're just getting this to work with just one GPU, okay? So GPU platform will be 0. D is for device. It's device 0 because we only have one GPU in here. So we're platform 0, device 0. The -W means how many work units are we going to use, and the default is always 256, okay? So we're using a work unit of 256. I forget what the -V is. I'll have to look that up just a second. The I. Now this is the one that is the most important to change. And what I mean by most important to change is you're going to probably want to make at least 2 batch files. One is your hardcore working batch file, like you went to bed at night and you're going to leave your computer running all night long and you want to crank out the most amount of coins. That's going to be the I level of at least 20 or 19. When you want to work on your computer like I am right now, like I'm doing this show, I can't run it at 20 because when I run it at 20, the mouse sticks and stutters. If I go to move this, it'd be like, I mean, really bad. And you're basically pushing the computer to its top level. You can't go any higher. 20 is the highest you really want to go. Anything over 20 will actually get you a lot of errors. You can go to 22 or 23, but I heard that if you go like as high as 23, the amount of errors you're getting outweighs the amount of actual throughput. So you're actually going slower when you go above 20. So 19 to 20 is about where you want to go. All right. And these other two switches, don't worry about them. Just G2, L1. All right. We're not going to talk about those two right now. But the big one that we're worried about is the I level, which is this one is I13, and this next one is thread concurrency. Okay, so thread concurrency, as on the forums, you'll see this listed as TC. And they'll tell you, bump your TC up, lower your TC when you're talking to people asking for advice. When they say TC, they're talking thread concurrency. And it's how many concurrent threads can be handled by your GPU. Now, if your computer, your GPU, has a very, very wide memory bus, the thread concurrency can be as high as like 31,000 for like the 290 class of cards that are coming out from AMD. Okay, so if your thread concurrency is that high, you can put it that high. Now, if you try to use a thread concurrency that high on a card that can't handle that, GUIMiner is going to crash. Now, if you're running, say you've set this script up, this batch file up, and you're running it, and it crashes every time you start it, you want to check your GUIMiner and see what it says. Sometimes it crashes before you ever get a chance to do it. So get your print screen button ready and get ready to snag a shot so you can maybe grab a picture of why GUIMiner just crashed. Okay. So where do I get this number? How did I figure 8192? It's a multiple of 64. Okay, because I'm running a 64-bit operating system, but even so, it's a multiple of 64. And where did I get the 8192? This is where I'm going to show you a really great website that's going to help you get your batch files set up correctly. All right. So what I do is you go out here to this website here. Let me go ahead and minimize these windows so they're not blocking everything. Well, we can keep this window open. We'll come back to it in just a minute. It's called the Mining Hardware Comparison on Litecoin Info. So http litecoin.info mining hardware comparison. And by the way, when this goes up on YouTube, all of these links will be in the description below. Okay? So I'm going to provide all these links for you. So if you're watching this now and you don't know what's going on, just open them. It'll probably be in the More Info button up at the top under description on YouTube. Just click on the More Info and it drops down all of the links. A lot of people were writing me for links to the GUIMiner, and it was in there all the time, but people just, I guess, don't know to hit the More Info button and it drops the whole thing down. You can see all the links. Okay, so this is a very, very important site. And why it's important, I'm going to go ahead and make it bigger so you can see more of it, is it lists basically what your GPU is capable of. And if you notice, it starts with the 4000 series. I had a few people contacting me saying they had older AMDs, older than the 4000 series, and they couldn't get it to work. It's not going to work. Another thing that people were contacting me with saying, hey, I've got a HD 4000 that's built right into my Intel chip. I want to use that. It won't work. You need a discrete, dedicated graphics card to do this, okay? You can mine with your CPU, but not the GPU on your CPU, because there really isn't one. It's more of a way that they can make it act like a GPU, but it's not nearly as efficient as a real GPU. So if you have one of these cards in the 4000 series, it tells you, like, we'll just start with the first one here, the 4350, which is a really old card from AMD. It gets around 10,000 hashes per second. This is the core, what this right here is the core speed, and we'll talk about core speed in just a bit, and the memory speed. How much voltage should you have it set to? A lot of people are going, wait a second, that card should run at 1.4. Why is it 1.9? And there's a reason for that, and we'll talk about that in just a little bit too. We're going to cover these in detail, but you do want to downvolt your card sometimes because it uses less heat and it actually cranks through the hashes faster without causing many errors. All right, and then so this is telling you what type of miner that they were using when they put this on here. So this person was using 3.3.4. And this is the part I was talking about. So this is the config from the batch file. See this? You notice anything same here? It has I9, G1, W128, thread concurrency 2048. So this person's using Ubuntu 12.04, and this is the setup that he used inside of his config or the batch file to get this type of performance, which is 10,000 hashes per second. All right? So you're going, wait a second, Geek Domo. Nobody's going to use these old cards. Get me to the good stuff. Okay. So the good stuff is down here. And as you can see, somebody's gone through a lot of trouble, and there is no verification. Somebody could be like, oh, dude, mine's doing 706. You might, you know, mileage may vary. So you might have this exact same card, and you're only getting 702. It's close enough. You know, sometimes people put like their high numbers in, sometimes they put their average in, whatever. But you can sort of see with the new 290 card, it's getting between 770, 830, 892 for the 290X, and 290X is 990 for this guy. Now he's using Windows 8, and he's telling us that he's running at 90 degrees Celsius, which these cards do run really hot. But look at the thread concurrency up here. Holy cow. Now, I do want to talk to you a little bit about the eye level, because we were talking about the eye level. Eye level is intensity. Now, the higher the intensity, the less you're going to be able to use your computer for other stuff. And then a lot of people wrote me and asked me, you know, how come I can't? I have my thing set at I-20 and I can't move my windows around. Yeah, you can't, because you're basically pushing your computer and your card to the top level. If you want to work on your computer, you set it to around 12, 13, maybe 14 most. I would say around 13 is about good for an intensity level. All right. So the 7970s. Let's go up here. Look at the 7970s, all of them listed here. Do you see a 20? You do not. Some people were writing me saying, look, Geek, I've got a 7970, and you were telling me your 7950 does 20, and my 7970 only does 13. That's right. A 7970 will never do 20 correctly. Now, how this guy got an I-19 on his 7970, I'm not sure, and I wouldn't put too much weight behind that. If you notice, almost all the other 7970s here are I-13. Okay? So he might have got it to 19, but it's not stable. It's going to crash. So that's what I'm saying. You got to take some of these with a grain of salt. But if you look at the general layout here, you'll see that for a 7970, eye level of 13. But at an eye level of a 13, they're still doing 620, whereas 7950 at eye level of 20 is doing 670. That's why the 7950 is the preferred card over the 7970. If you have a 7970, don't throw it away. It's just that you can't. You're getting much more efficient use out of a 7950 than you are out of a 7970. Okay, so I hope that clarifies a few things. And so you're going to use this website for setting up your script, or your batch file. I mean, I keep calling it a script. It's a batch file. And you notice that they give you in here what you should use. So I have a 7950, and it looks like I have a Dual X, okay, a Sapphire Dual X. So this is what this guy says to use, okay? We can copy that. You come into here, you go to where it says I, you highlight from where it says I, and then you pop that in. That's all you have to do to set it up, okay? That's how I do it. Now, there's nothing special here. It's not magic. It's just literally I just go into a website, seeing what the guys use. Now, your mileage may vary. Again, I'm going to say that again, because everybody's card is a little different. With mine, I could maybe run I could run an intensity of 20, but your card, there might be like a slight crack in one of the solder joints or something, and you could only get I-19 or something like that. Or your thread concurrency, it says here you should be at 8192, but or 2200 or 22,400. Okay, like this guy here. We'll just drag that one in there as an example. Just because this guy got it to work at 22,400 doesn't mean yours is going to work. So we're going to go back in here where it says I-20 and paste that. And you might not get that to work, so you might have to go to, you have to look for the next number down. So maybe you have to do yours at 14336. 14336. Maybe that's the only way yours is going to work. Don't be upset. Don't be afraid or anything like that. The worst that's going to happen is you're going to start it up, it's going to crash. Or if you're getting a ton of errors, then you're doing something wrong. Just don't freak out. Just literally take your batch file and tweak it. All right. Okay, so now we've basically talked about the batch file from GUIMiner. Now that is the next step in the iteration of if you got GUIMiner working. Now you go ahead and go to the batch file, or now you're going to go edit your batch file for GUIMiner directly, and you can run GUIMiner directly. Okay, so we're going to close this. Yeah, save it, whatever. All right, so let's go ahead and move this back over to the way we had it. And so now you're running your batch file and everything's happy, hunky-dory. Like this is what it should look like, guys, when you're running your batch file. There's something wrong here. I'm getting a lot of rejections, and I don't know why, but we're not going to fiddle with that right now. But I got 86,000 have been accepted, and it's rejected 3,000 of the 86,000. Maybe that's not that bad of a ratio. So what you should see on your miner is this, and we'll talk about the miner now, and we'll go through it now. I can't highlight the letters like I did with the batch file, but we'll talk about each one of these things and what it means. So this is a 5-second, every 5 seconds it's going to give you what your miner is doing at that second, for the last 5 seconds. Then it's going to show you the average of how much it's been since you've been running it. Now if you notice, my average is 541, but I'm only running 330. How did that happen? Well, we're going to talk about CG Watcher in just a minute. But with CG Watcher, I can actually change the intensity on the fly, which you can do that in here too. All right, so the A is accepted. How many of my hashes were accepted? So right now they've accepted 86,956 of my hashes. They've rejected 3,076 of my hashes. HW, you always want to see this at 0. HW stands for hardware errors. Now, if you are doing something wrong, or there's something physically wrong with your card, you might see that, or the temperature's too high, you might start seeing hardware errors. If you start seeing lots of numbers in the HW, you have problems and you need to figure it out. Whether it's your card is overheating, you have the batch file set up wrong, whatever it is, there's something not quite right. You need to get it fixed, because hardware errors are a physical problem where your computer could physically be damaged. And if you've seen a lot of those, then have that checked out. Check it out yourself, swap your card, do something. But okay, W's work unit, this is 485 of a million, 45.3 of a million. I forget what these ones, ST, SS, NB, LW, GF, and RF. I forget what those are. I'm not going to worry about those right now. But this is where I'm connected to. GUIMiner LTC. Stratum is user Dharma 1. This is the block. This is the current bit of the code that I'm currently working on. I'm working on 6D4A, 6D4AE578. The difficulty right now is 1.96. Now, the price of Litecoins is going through the roof right now, okay? It shot up as high as 50 the other day, and it's dropped back down. Let's check out what it is right now. When I made my last video, I was excited that it was 9. Okay? It's now 31, and it's actually dropping down a little bit. It dropped down, look, as low as 28, but it's coming back up. We're gonna say probably $25 to $30 is a pretty safe bet per Litecoin. Now, when I started the other day, the difficulty was 1200, right? Wasn't it the last one I talked to you guys? When I talked to you guys, I said it was 1107, and then it went to 1200 during the show. The difficulty going up will cause problems in this regard. When the difficulty goes up, it's harder to find the Litecoins. Now, I'll give you an example of how this is a pain in the neck. When I started doing this a month ago, I had 2 cards. I had a 6990 and a GTX 770. Now, the GTX 770 is an NVIDIA card, and it's not very good, but I was using it for mining anyway. Those 2 cards together got me 6 coins, roughly, before I got my next card, which was the 7950. When I got my 7950, it was 2 weeks after I started. Now, the 7950 enabled me to bump up and get more throughput. But because of the difficulty going up, I'm actually making less coins. Now, on top of that, I went ahead and bought a 690, not a 690X, a 690, which is the newest card, the top tier card. Now, I didn't get the X, and there's a reason for that, and I'll talk about that in a second. But the 690, together with the other 2 cards, are going to get me less Litecoins per week now, or per day now, than but my 2 simple cards that I had when I started a month ago. That's how much the difficulty is changing. And if we go to let's see, there's a website here. Is it Litecoin pool? Look at this difficulty. On November 10th, it was right around 1,000, and now it's pushing up to 2,000. It's going to be 2,000 before too long. And as the difficulty goes up, the amount of coins you're going to make per day go down. So let's go ahead and go to GUIMiner LTC. I'm going to log in there, and we're going to go over here to the user chat. This site is great. So while I'm logging into this, remember everybody, I don't have every single question. I'm not like a pro at this. I'm not a massive pro at this at all. I've been doing it for a while now, and I make YouTube videos. So that's what I'm doing, is helping you guys to get this going. Look at this chat. When I first started joining this thing, there was maybe 5 people in this chat. This chat is exploding now. But there's a lot of people on here that are helpful. So I'm going to go diff. It's going to tell me the current difficulty. The next one is 2012. Oh, no, wait, I'm sorry. 4210. Oh, my God. All right. This is getting really, really difficult to make money. You need to get into this now if you want to make it. Oh, my God. 4210. Oh, my God. All right, so let me give you an example. At the old difficulty... oops. So I used to be doing 1,000. Okay, so I'm at 1,000 roughly when I got my things running full time. Right now, the current difficulty, I'm earning half a Litecoin a day. I was making a Litecoin a day. Okay. Now, I added another card. A new card's coming in, which is going to give me close to 2,000. This one, I'm going to get just 1 coin a day, whereas you would with a 2,000 before, I would have got 2 coins a day. So just in that time. Now this is right now with the diff going up so high. It's oh my God. Wait, 2953. It just went down. It's okay. So 2953 is still crazy. At 2953, I'm probably going to be making less than a third of a Litecoin a day. And that's after I just got through spending all this money buying all these cards. So Litecoins might be getting a bit out of reach already. And it's only been a month. It's unfortunate. And the reason that's happening is because of this. Like a month ago, you could buy a Litecoin for $1 or $2 or $3 per coin. Now they're up in the $30 range. Everybody's getting into Litecoin mining, and as you guys are watching these videos, it's easy to do if you got a GPU to do it with. Don't give up hope. If you still want to do this, you can still do it, because here's why. Bitcoins are $1,000 right now. Wow. Okay. So even if you only own a portion of a Litecoin, people only own a portion of a Bitcoin. Let's get, what if I had 0.1 of a Bitcoin? I still have $98 at 0.1. And you can easily get 0.1 of a Litecoin. So when Litecoin starts jumping up in here, even if you've only got 5 or 6 coins, those 5 or 6 coins could be worth a lot of money. Okay, so don't give up hope. But it is getting harder, and it's only going to get harder. So, now's the time into it if you're going to get into it. And there's also other currencies. We could talk about those in a little bit too. All right. So let's talk about, now we've talked about, this is how it's running over here. Oh, yeah. Also down here, you can see you could change your settings on the fly in GPU-Miner or in CG-Miner by just hitting G for GPU management or S for settings. I'm not going to do that because I'm using this instead. And it'll tell you how fast your fan is running, 1800 RPM. I'm running at 73 degrees Celsius, which is not a lot for this card. And basically, yeah, that's all you'll need to see in there. It should be seeing these things go by fairly quickly. If you're on an older card, you might not see a accepted come by like once every couple minutes. I'm on a fast card, so it's going by pretty quick while we've been talking all along. It's just go click, click, click. Okay. Let's go ahead and go into CG Watcher. All right, so in here, in CG Watcher, this is a really great program. and it's developed by this guy at Nanotechnology, and this guy, he's saying Bitcoins are 1,053. Different exchanges have them at different rates, so you might get more money at a different exchange. Okay, so his two applications he wrote is CG Watcher and CG Remote. We're not going to do CG Remote. Now, CG Remote is great if you've got 10 computers or 10 computers that are all running different types of miners, then you're going to need something like CG Remote because it remote controls everything. But the reason I started using CG Watcher is I found it a couple of days ago, and then this morning on TweetDeck, Jim Bragg, ShadowSpawn2112, reminded me about it, and I was like, oh yeah, I had seen that before, but I didn't really make any connection between that and the mining. So he talked about it, and I was like, okay, great. And I went and got it, and I started using it this morning. Now, what it does is some really great stuff. It controls GUIMiner directly, like GUIMiner, but gives you so much more control, and it actually can set up multiple GPUs. You can run basically everything through this. Look at this. It has a really nice interface here. It's showing me basically my current hash rate, what my average hash rate has been. I can pick whatever GPUs I've got. If I add another GPU, I just add it in, and it just automatically changes the code down here. If I'm running an ASIC, which I would love to assume at somewhere down the road, ASICs will overrun the GPU market, and if I still wanted to stay with Litecoins, I'd probably jump into ASIC. But right now I'm GPU mining. These are the pools. Basically, you set your pool up in here. But the thing I wanted to talk to you about is the settings. Now, what this is going to do is go into some. This might be a little scary for some of you. Remember, we're talking intermediate level here. Okay, so hopefully you're not too freaked out by what I'm going to be talking about. GUIMiner uses a conf file, C-O-N-F file, and here it's called example conf because that's the one I picked, and I just decided to keep using it. It doesn't matter really what you call it. You can call it my conf, or you can call it whatever. But it's just a config file. I'm called this one WeMine LTC because that's the type of mining I'm doing. So what this can do is, if I have multiple computers running it, like I've got it on this computer, and I've got it on my wife's computer, and I got my kid's computer, whatever, I'm running all these different miners, I can have it do an API, and basically it sends it across the entire network, and the network can then, I can put my my real IP address in here, not my localhost IP address, and it can then communicate with all the other ones and kind of give you an overall view of how much you're doing totally on all of your computers and everything. It's really nice. Okay, but we'll skip the API part for right now. Okay, so if that's freaking you out, just ignore that. ASIC we're not doing, so we're skipping that. Forget this stuff here. We're not going to use any of that, and see, it's all set to false anyway, so it doesn't matter. Okay, so the GPU, this is where you want to set this up. The GPU auto fan, you want to probably turn that on to true, and what that does is it keeps the fan low until it gets overheated, and when it overheats, it kicks the fan up in speed so that it makes your thing run cooler. Auto GPU, you can set the true. Basically, this changes your clock rate as the intensity it needs to. Disable GPU is false because some people want to run CPU only, and maybe that's, if you're having problems, you could try that, but ultimately you want to run the GPU, so therefore you leave it on. The interval, you can, some people say set this to 2. It depends on your card. I have mine set to 7. That may be why I'm getting some more errors. We can fiddle with that. Now, the GPU engine of 1100 and the GPU mem clock of 1500, where I got those numbers from is from this hardware comparison chart. Okay, remember this one we talked about a few minutes ago? Here it tells me the 7950 should be 1050 and 1575. I'm just grabbing one off the chart randomly. It doesn't, you could pick one, whatever. If you have this ghost one, you want 1040 and 1495. Okay, so oops, so that's where I got that from. Okay, so that's where I got the 1100 and the 1500. The GPU fan 0 to 85, 85 being the max. Now, if you first open this up, you might come in here, you might see it look like this. 0-85, 0, 0-85. If you see it 0-85, 0-85, 0-85, you see things in here in rows of 4, it's because the thing thinks that you have 4 GPUs to start with, which you don't. You probably only have 1, maybe 2. So you just want to get rid of that. If you have 2, you of course you would add 0-85. So this way it works is it reads it first one, second one, first one, second one, first one, second one, all the way down. All right. GPU map you can skip. GPU memdiff you can. That is matter of fact. If you're in here and you're going, I have no idea what this means. Click on the bar, and at the bottom it tells you this is a set fixed difference in clock speed in megahertz between GPU engine and GPU memory when the auto GPU is enabled. So you can set it to whatever you want. You can say 2 or 3, 200, 300, whatever. GPU platform is 0 because I only have 1, so it's the only one in here, so it's 0. Power tune is 20, and you can -20 or 20, and it's the power tune percentage, and this basically tunes it down. I can tune it down or tune it up voltage wise, how much I want, so that it can operate at the most efficient level. All right. GPU reorder, you could reorder your device on the PCI bus. So if you don't want to actually physically take the card out and move it up, you could do that. But why? I mean, just take it out, put it in. GPU threads, I'm just doing 1. Actually, on my R90 that I'm getting, I can actually do 2 threads. So that's cool. So I'm going to be doing, it'll probably, when I get my R90 put in here, it'll be 1,2. But we don't have that yet. Okay. This is where you can set the voltage directly. So if I go back to my chart here, where's my chart? It says here that the 7950 dual X should be 1.09. So I could literally come in here and add 1.09, or yeah, 1.09. Okay. Work size is 256, so we talked about vectors of 1. And I set the max temp cutoff. I don't want this thing getting hotter than 85 degrees Celsius. That's cooking for this particular card. The other card, the 290, I can go up as high as 95, I believe, which is just baking. I could cook something on it. But those cards are designed to run like that, so therefore, yeah. All right, so that's it. Okay, now here's where you want to go into your the pools. You got to come in here to the pool, and you got to set your pool up. They'll have 3 pools, pool A, B, and C. Delete them all and just take the top one, A, and rename it, and then just delete the other 2. And so this is the pool, and I called mine GUIMiner LTC worker number 1. And then the password, the quota, we don't have quotas on those, and the login and the password, or the URL and the login. Okay? If you don't do that, it'll fail. Okay, I just changed that accidentally. And then all the rest of it, yeah, script is true because we're using Litecoin, so you want to do script of true. All right, so when that's all done, you just go validate, and it'll tell you if it passed or not. If you validate it and it says error, it'll tell you where the error is. It'll say per device stats set to true, and it should be false or whatever. It'll walk you through it, pretty much. Don't be frightened. Don't be frightened or scared. Just play with it. Nothing's gonna crash. Okay, when it's done, then all you do is say save. All right. So we set up our config file, and once the config file is set up, all you do then is I'm pausing GUIMiner. Oh, crap! If I run it now, I bet it's gonna crash XSplit. Decisions. Should I do it? All right. Let's see. Ooh, XSplit didn't explode. All right. So why I love this GUIMiner is it you can change all these things that we talked about, sure. But if I want to come in here, I can go to this device and see right now I got the intensity of 14. Now I changed it to 20. So I'm going to go to bed, and I'm going to leave this thing running all night long when I go to bed. I turn it up to 20. I hit apply changes. It'll then apply it within GUIMiner without having to restart everything. And Bob's your uncle. You're done. You can literally go to bed, and there you go. And of course, it has this nice monitor. It tells you how efficient you're being and all of that. There's also one other thing that I'm going to talk about in here before we finish up for today, because we've been going quite a while already. There's one other thing. It's the profitability. Now look at this. Is amazing. So what you can do is you can set up a Bitcoin miner. You know, we're always talking about doing Litecoins. Let's make this a little bit more manageable. But you can set up your Bitcoin, and a Bitcoin profitability exchange is always 100% because it's the standard everything else is going off of. So right now, Litecoins, even though as hard as they're getting with the current difficulty of 1,906, this difficulty going up and blah, 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 it's still 2,289% more profitable than Bitcoin. Well, 2,189% more profitable than Bitcoin. Okay? So even as crappy as it looks like it's getting, guys, it's still very profitable. But say you wanted to mine Bitcoins, maybe Bitcoins for some reason just jumps up. The profitability goes really high. You could have this thing set up to where it automatically toggles between mining for Litecoins now and then switching over to mining for Bitcoins, because you'll actually make more Litecoins if you sell your Bitcoins into Litecoins, that kind of thing. And you can set up all these are all crypto coins. This entire list is all crypto coins. Now, some of them are absolute junk, and I wouldn't touch them with a 10-foot pole, while other ones are not so bad that you might want to look into. And you could also set this up so what'll happen is it'll start mining Litecoins. Say it's mining Litecoins, and I've set up Novacoin. NVC is actually fairly recognized on that exchange, so I'm going to start mining Novacoin. And Novacoin is actually a little bit more profitable than Litecoin, so it'll switch over to mine Novacoin until I've flipped it over, and then I can then trade those Novacoins into Litecoins, and I've made more of a profit. You see what I'm saying? It sounds complicated, but you can let this software run on its own, and it'll auto switch between the different cryptocurrencies as long as it looks like that one's more profitable than this one. Then it'll switch over to another one if you're up to that sort of thing. This way, you can actually maximize your profitability while you're cranking your coins through it. I'm actually going to try this out. I'm going to set up a couple other of these crypto coins and just let it go and see how it does. Like, did I just make a ton of money this way, or did I make crap or whatever? Because Litecoins are getting a little bit harder to find, and the difficulty is going up. Maybe I want to switch off to a different coin and try out something else. All right, so that is free. It's built right into this program. Now, this guy's program, this CG Watcher, is amazing. And if you guys like it as much as I do, I'm actually going to donate some of my Litecoin to him. I'm going to actually give him a couple of my Litecoins, because this is a great program, and what it can do for me is just amazing. So I might give him a coin or something, because they're $30 now, you know. So anyway, and that's the way these guys actually deal. So you can send him your stuff. You can send him coins instead of donate coins. All right, so I guess that about wraps it up. This video will be on YouTube, like I said, and you can watch the other two in the series. This was designed to kind of go through and help people set this up. So remember, guys, keep on mining. If you have any questions, you can send them to me, geek@geekdomo.com, and I'll answer them the best I can. Remember, you cannot mine with your CPU, built-in GPU, your HD 4000. That's not a real GPU. Same with the AMDs. You need a discrete card for it. Anything older than a 4000 series, don't bother with. Intel or NVIDIA, I mean, you can sort of do it, whatever. Any other questions that I remember that popped up? Not particularly, but this should get you guys started with mining a little bit higher rate, a little bit higher quality. All right. Thank you all for coming today, and this will be up on YouTube very shortly. So until next time, this is Geek Domo saying, see ya.